Greetings all. I decided to make another video. Totally, you were quite taken with the rifle. I appreciate your kind comments and questions from others. I'm humbled by the response. I didn't think there was anything I did that was really of any importance. Regardless, I've got the camera on the stand this time, which will hopefully offset my shaking as long as I don't kick the tripod legs out from underneath it. So again, this is the C.C. Johnson or Charles C. Johnson 1885 custom Highwall. And this particular caliber has been chambered in what we'll call 219 improved zipper. Realistically, it's actually more accurately be termed as a 22 Savage high power improved. Semantics. I just wanted to answer a question first about eye relief. Ghost Rider USA answered or asked about eye relief, and if you're ever in question about eye relief, there's a very quick and simple trick you can use. You just take one of these inexpensive LED lights, obviously turn it on, and shine it down the telescope. Just take a piece of cardboard. Cardboard is better than white paper because of the reflection. You'll see there's a little black dot I put there with a Sharpie. That's about the size of your pupil. So if you put that on the telescope, you see the little ring light, and you can adjust that, and when it's nice and sharp there like that, that tells you the eye relief is right on. So that's shaking hands. It's a little over an inch with this particular scope. It's foolproof, and it accommodates for variables. When you turn the power up, the exit pupil gets smaller and you have to come in closer. So if any of you have an experienced magnum eyebrow like I have once, you're further ahead to check than to wear it. So I just thought I'd take a moment to talk a little bit about the history of this rifle and what I know about it. And that, to answer that question correctly, I'd have to go into the past about 25, 30 years ago. I'd become acquainted with Ellwood Epps over the years. He was a famed shooter, and he ran a very successful mail order sporting goods store selling ammunition, firearms, supplies, all the manner like related to hunting and shooting. He's quite an interesting guy, and I by sheer serendipity got to know him a little bit, and we ended up hunting together over a series of springs, starting in 1991. Ellwood was active right into his late 90s. Unfortunately, like my mother, he began losing his sight to macular degeneration. Last time we hunted together was on May 28th, 1998, which was the 50th anniversary, or rather the 50 years to the day, that he and Charles S. Landis had hunted together over the same ground in that time period. A little bit interesting. There's a number of books written by Landis. This particular book was first published in 1950, Woodchucks and Woodchuck Rifles. This is a reprint made by Wolf Publishing in the 1990s. This book was given to Ellwood by his friend Sandy McPhail, and then In 1998, Ellwood gave the book to me. He put a nice dedication in there. Shooting in Canada, this time period in the late 1940s, just post-World War II, was hampered by supplies and was hampered by components or lack thereof. More by good management than by accident. A number of shooters used Wildcat cartridges because you couldn't get brass to begin with. So any of these obsolete cartridges, you could get ammunition, or rather you get components like brass. In the previous video I showed you how some shooters even swaged their own bullets from spent .22 rimfire cases. Those bullets, although are very labor intensive, they do vary significantly in their weights. Dave Tibbett made some up for me which were excellent. Other examples I've seen, with all good intention, the spread was really too far other than just, I guess what I'm saying is the bullet weight spread was so large that other than just for basic plinking, they were of little use. But regardless, the shooters in the day, just after the war, when they went shooting, they would be shooting in their business clothes, their fedoras, their ties, and their jackets. Some would come home from work and they'd still be wearing their white shirt and tie, and off they'd go. And I believe in New York State, many shooters belong to clubs, rather like a men's club, and you would get off work, you'd go and shoot a few rounds, you'd have maybe a couple fingers of rye whiskey or Scotch whiskey, and then you go home. And these men so often wore their white shirts and ties. So it was kind of an unusual time for that. Not much camo in those days. But regardless, been a number of interesting stories related over the time. And I heard a lot of these stories from Ellwood, and a lot of them were very interesting. And I won't read this to you because it's rather time consuming, but it's a commentary from Charles S. Landis on Ellwood Epps' varmint rifle, the one he used when we hunted together. And I have a couple of pictures here. They're not ideal. We'll try them. Ellwood's rifle is in the foreground. It's a .22 Marcianti Blue Streak. It's a Winchester Highwall. And both rifles were built by the same gunsmith, Charles C. Johnson, of at that time Thackeray, Ohio, which is a little municipality in west central Ohio. There's the last woodchuck he and I got together. Another picture here. Again, I apologize, these are not ideal. This is pre-digital era. Shows a little bit of the stock. It's pretty fancy on my high wall, and very straight and plain on Ellwood's. It's really, his rifle was a little rough, and that's how 50 years before Charles S. Landis described it, was a bit rough. Very accurate rifle. Both very accurate. His far more accurate than mine. There's a photo of Ellwood Epps in red on my left. And there's two gentlemen there that will go unnamed, who I met Ellwood that day, and then the other gentleman joined us. And it was a great time. I look back upon those times with great fondness. And this is the last picture I have of Ellwood. We're just taking a quick scan over this place that he and Landis had hunted over 50 years before. Ellwood was a great guy. Rest in peace. One last photograph here of the two rifles together. It's kind of interesting. Well, that's basically the video. There's not much to it. Not much new information here. This really I could put into 4 or 5 videos, which would bore you all to tears. However, if there's something you'd like to see regarding this rifle, or a little more of the past about it, I'd be more than glad to see what I can do. I intend to get out to the range in the next couple of days. It seems that the COVID-19 restrictions in this part of Ontario have been relaxed a little bit. That doesn't mean we're going to lower our guards, but it does mean that we'll be able to get out a little bit. Filming at the range in Canada is a challenging experience. Each club has their own bylaws with regards to this, and the chief firearms officer for Ontario frowns significantly upon walking in front or near the front of the rifle to take pictures, even if the range is safe. You can be ejected from the club for that. So, I've got a couple of private ranges I can access, including my own simple range. I'm sure we can get some photographs and maybe do some shooting together. And I think this is something, I think totally you've created a monster. I think I'm going to make films more regularly. I have a lot of different rifles, a lot of different varmint rifles, old calibers, unique stuff, and I'm sure I could film it, and if it's of some interest to you, why I'd be certainly glad to share it with you. And again, if you have a comment or something, just drop it in the comment section, and if I have something similar or something of interest, I'll certainly make a video regarding it. Thanks so much. Good afternoon.